withal. Senator Ernst, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, excuse me, for being here today. Secretary, Mayor, and General Fenton, I really do commend your submission of the joint statement to our committee. It reflects both alignments and oversight from civilian policymakers as well as our uniformed leaders. So thank you for submitting that. Secretary, Mayor, and General Fenton, as outlined in your SOF vision and strategy, how does the SOF balance its various missions with great power competition, counterterrorism, and crisis response, your three main missions? Because right now we're seeing great power competition increase, ever increasing with Iran, of course our pacing threat with China, and of course with the Russian incursion and war in Ukraine. So how do you balance those missions, and how should that great power competition affect your mission?
Thank you, Senator Ernst. I'll take it from a more strategic level and then ask General Fenton to speak in more detail. So I would say first and foremost, it's a risk assessment and it's weighing against the requirements. So there is always more requirements from the combatant commands than we can meet as a force, and those numbers keep going up. But I think at the same time, we're very focused on the idea that while the strategic focus is, of course, on the pacing challenge of the PRC and the acute threat of Russia, we can't be surprised by an attack from another adversary. And I think managing that risk is many cases what the SOF enterprise does very well. We are, in essence, the hedge against that risk. So it's a constant effort to look for areas where we can innovate, to be able to do more, do things on a more sustainable fashion. And in some cases, look for where we're getting what my New England friends would call a twofer, where we're able to do counterterrorism work and have those partnerships and access that then helps us also on the NDS priorities, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. General Fenton.
Senator, thank you for that question. I think to your point on balance and adjustment, I'm constantly focused on that in the command. As you mentioned, the integrated deterrence, crisis response, and counterterrorism operations, all of those extremely high priority for the SOCOM team. I think on the integrated deterrence side, we take our lead from the combatant commands and their requirements for engagement in their regions, what they need for partnerships, how they need capabilities built, and Senator, in many ways, our counterterrorism tools and the form factors that we have in terms of how we present forces, those are equally applicable in the integrated deterrence, the requirements from the COCOMs for developing a force and competing with adversaries such as the PRC, as they are for actual counterterrorism efforts that you know very well. So I think it's a balance. Some of those tools are interchangeable, or we can bring them across a spectrum. Very often it is about the relationships that then turn into things that we've seen in Ukraine, and we just have mentioned here, soft investment early, and we've seen that in many other places as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know that my colleague, Senator Cotton, talked about your top line and end strength cuts and how that would impact SOF. I am very, very concerned about that, and it doesn't matter what commander it was, whether it was General Tony Thomas or Rich Clark or now you, General Fenton. I've always brought this up in discussions, and every SOCOM commander I have visited with has said, ma'am, we're going to make do. We will execute the mission regardless of the budget. I get that. But I just need to stress to this committee how important it is that we continue to fund you at the appropriate levels. You give us the greatest bang for the buck with what you do all around the globe. So we won't question that, but I do want to dig in a little more. General Fenton, I've supported Section 1202, regular warfare authorities. That was done in the fiscal year 18 NDAA. And your joint statement describes this as essential for applying soft capabilities against malign actors. So in your personal opinion, would enabling those partner forces that are responding to hostilities enhance SOF's irregular warfare contribution to great power competition?
Senator, thank you for that. And I'll thank this committee for the 1202 authority. That is a very important tool in the arsenal of the special operations tools that we use to either develop partnerships, build capability and capacity of a nation, and certainly then move forward. So thank you very much for that. It is key for us to engage in partnerships at that level that involve irregular warfare. Our ability to operate and build up a capability of a nation, also have it able to look at any malign influences coming its way and identify those and then address them. And those forces that we work with provide options for their national command leadership as well as dilemmas for any adversary. So, Senator, I would say a very small investment in many ways, almost like your special operations team. It's a very small investment, but for a very high return on the dollar. So I thank you very much for that, and happy to talk more about it in closed session.
Very good. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.